clock has struck 3 a.m. The witching hour has begun. Are you ready to be initiated into the Black Magic Coven? Join your sisters, Andrea,
Kaylee,
Liz,
Marissa,
as we meet to discuss the macabre, creepy, and sinister. We call upon the Four Corners to invite the black-eyed children to come out and play. So this particular topic is one of my favorite urban legend / creepypastas. Is it something that you guys are familiar with?
I don't think I was ever really familiar with the specific, the black-eyed children. I didn't know it was a specific thing, but I've definitely seen, this creature, or whatever you would call it, in pop culture. I guess I just didn't know it was, a specific name, if that makes sense. But I've seen, pale kids with the blacked-over eyes, that concept I've seen in pop culture before. So I feel like I've seen it, but I didn't ever research into it and kind of the origin and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with it. I feel like the first time I heard anything about it was on the No Sleep subreddit. Somebody had written a story based on the black-eyed children, so I kind of was curious about what that stemmed from, so I looked into it. I think it's super eerie and interesting.
Yeah, same. I mean, I like how its origins are, date all the way back to, Texas. I didn't realize that initially, but even being a Texan, I didn't grow up with this kind of folklore. So I thought that was really interesting that it was local in a sense, but I had never heard about it. So it was pretty fun to dive into.
Yeah, I feel it's kind of bled into, tons of pop culture, and it's been used in a lot of different medium, but I feel like it is a thing that a lot of people don't know specific origins, and there are several origin stories that we'll get into a little bit, but most of the encounters with the black-eyed children, they're always humanoid, just children between 6 and 16. They're always super pale, and they have not just jet black eyes, but it's almost like a void, they don't even have any eyes. And typically the clothes they're wearing are out of date or out of season. So they'll show up at your house at midnight in the middle of a snowstorm in a sundress. And so that's your number one clue to not answer the door.
Yeah. I honestly avoid answering my door at any point in time anyway. So
yeah, it's oh, you want to use my phone? Okay, I'll call the police for you, and you can get some help from them.
Yeah.
But you're not coming in my house.
No.
This is also very Texas, just in the sense of not really knowing how to dress for the weather, because one day it will be super hot and the next day it'll be storming, and then we'll have, snow for about 24 to 48 hours. So, I mean, that part of it doesn't necessarily put me off so much. I'd be like, oh yeah, I mean, it's Texas, but the black eyes and the pale skin, that's a creepy factor. And just children in general can be creepy too, though, to an extent.
And it seems like they show up at odd times or in places where they shouldn't be. People report having them come up to their car and knock on their front door. And they want to request to use your phone, or they want you to let them into wherever you are. So into your car, into your house. And all the people report an overwhelming fear of dread and an irrational scaredness. Because most people, when you see some little kids, it's not getting creeped out, if you're walking in a parking lot.
I mean, I don't know if kids really know. I'm just kidding.
So that was one of the other common themes through these stories, is despite the irrational fear, people will notice themselves doing things that reaching for the door handle, and then they're what are you doing? Don't open that door. And kind of losing control a little bit while they're in this state. And it typically is after they make eye contact with them. So don't open the door and don't look in their eyes.
But how do you know if they're black-eyed children?
Just assume.
Okay.
Something about the void of their eyes is taking over your ability to stop.
Right. Even though in your brain this is bad. So I feel like that's very creepy. there's been like tabloid coverage of claims saying that this has gone back to the like 80s, but the main story that started the legend happened in 1996. And I think this was like the Reddit one. This guy was not a like spooky story person. He wasn't a ghost hunter. He's like not into this stuff at all. But he was a staff writer for the Abilene Reporter News, and he was like going to pay a bill, which I think is so great because it is so 1996.
Right.
Dude, I did that in college. Like, I used to go pay bills and drop them off. So
honestly, I'd be so bad at paying bills if I had to go somewhere in person.
Yeah, so
I still have to do that right now for my freaking car payment.
Really?
It's not with my bank, so I either have to mail it or drop it off, and I'm like too much of a butthead to like buy stamps to mail my freaking bill in every month, so I just go to the
small town Texas and
hey, you know what? I'm like 2 months away from pulling it.
Definitely dropped off my bills, but this very much is still 1996 and didn't have like cell phones or internet or anything.
Yeah, so it's like 9:30 at night, and he's getting ready to get his internet shut off, so he's filling out a check in the shopping center parking lot. And these two kids come knock on his car window, and he had that same like that sense of dread. The boys were claiming they wanted to go see a movie, but that they forgot their money and needed a ride home.
No.
So he's instantly like, I think like the journalistic tendencies in him too. He's noticing things like the movie had already started because it was 9:30 at night, and it was like a dollar show or dollar theater. And so like it had already started. And then they're getting like super agitated, that they just want to go to their house, and they repeat, they're just kids. Like we're just two little boys. So like, come on, let us in. They specifically mention that they can't get into the car until you let us in.
Oh, like vampires?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of like connection there with people thinking they might be like some sort of vampire. But there are reports of these things during daylight too, so
sure,
kind of like a little bit of the lore.
Maybe they're like children of vampires.
I was literally going to say that.
Or they're like powers or something.
You know,
daywalkers.
They're like evolutionary vampires, you know, over time they've changed what they need to do.
Did it ever say what movie that they were wanting to see?
It was actually Mortal Kombat, which I think is great because it's very timely now.
Yeah.
Because Independence Day in 1996 was apparently the top grossing movie of the year, but I know like 1996 was a pretty good movie year. So if they were like, "Oh, we want to see Space Jam, sir," you know, I feel like you talk out like, okay, I guess if you want to see Mortal Kombat, that makes it all right. Or like Escape from LA or From Dusk Till Dawn.
I don't know. That Mortal Kombat movie isn't good.
So, but it was also, this is like one of those rerun cheap theaters, so they usually didn't have as many, like the movie'd been out for 6 or 8 months, and yeah, I missed the dollar theater. That was
I know.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I think the last one I specifically remember was I saw Rock-a-Doodle or whatever. Have you seen that movie? The like cartoon?
Yes.
No,
yeah.
I don't think I have.
It freaked me out as a kid. Like,
yeah,
as
I remember seeing
kid.
that in the dollar theater.
I think it was the evil owl preacher who freaked me out.
Yeah.
I remember like the box art, or like there was like a rooster on the front, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But
like an Elvis rooster, basically.
It was like a rockabilly little
Yeah.
No, that's a cute movie. I think it's actually on Netflix right now.
Nice.
So he's having the experience where he doesn't, he's very uncomfortable, doesn't want to open the door, but like as he's looking at the kids, he's noticing his hand is like going towards the door handle. And so, he's like instantly like jerks his arm back, and they're getting more and more like angry and aggressive, that they won't hurt him and you have to let us in. After they mention that they don't have a gun, which is a weird thing to say, he puts his car in reverse and drives off.
That was a smart move.
Yeah.
So nothing for a couple years. I want to say it was like 2 years later is when he put it on a thread, because it was like messing with him. And then someone else like came forward with a very similar story. This guy was an online friend of his, and they went through the interaction in the same year. And if like people want to look it up, it's available online all over the place to read the exact transcripts. But to this day, this guy like sticks to his story. Seems like he didn't want a lot of notoriety from it. He was just putting it out there to see if other people had similar experiences. Because I mean, he could have cashed in on this thing and done like book deals and movies and all kinds of stuff, but it seems very genuine.
Yeah,
It's very strange. It kind of took over in 2013 on like an MSN web series. Weekly Strange came up, and that's when I feel like more stories started coming out. But then at that point you roll your eyes a little bit and like, okay, now everybody's heard it, so this is where it's coming from. So kind of adjacent to this, there's another place in England called Cannock Chase, where they have a lot of strange incidences happening, but one of their big ones is also black-eyed children, and these go back like way farther. There were some murders there, and so some people equate the sightings to actually ghost children instead of what we're people here are seeing as the black-eyed children. But this place, they call it the Chase. They have all kinds of fun stuff. Good vacation spot, like werewolves, big cats, UFOs, Bigfoot. But then in 2014, the Daily Star, like super reputable publication, ran a front page series about sightings that were on the rise. And there's an author that has written a couple books, and one of them was specifically just stories that he investigated from people seeing these, named Lee Brickley. And it all kind of started with an aunt of his who had told him a story when he was a kid that mirrored the incidences that were coming in, most recently. But her and her friends would go out in the woods, and I'm sorry, I'm going to laugh when I say this because I think it would be fun, but they put masks on and frightened couples who were like making out in the woods. Like they never hurt anybody. It was
Right, they just wanted to scare them.
Yeah, apparently that was like a hookup spot, and they would dress up and scare people. And on one of those outings, a little girl came up to her, like 6 or 8 years old, screaming for help, but stayed far enough away. Like she seemed like she was like wanting her to follow her almost. As she would like look in her eyes and then run off. And after this, she got into some trees and she lost her. But then years later, they were talking, and it all kind of came up where like people are saying, oh yeah, a lot of people see kids in these woods, and it seems to be the same. Instead of wanting to get into your house, like they see you in the woods and want you to follow them.
Ew, I don't like that.
If you see a kid lost in the woods in the daytime, your inclination is probably going to be like, oh, they're separated from their people, I need to go help them.
I don't know.
No.
I feel like I'd call the police before I decided to run into the woods.
Absolutely.
But I feel like I would call the police, and then I would also try to go stop the kid. I mean,
yeah,
I
honestly,
think that most people probably are going to care enough about a child. Like that's the thing. That's
true.
That's the edge that they have, is that if they are monsters that look like children, like nothing is more vulnerable to most people than like a child. And so that's where they get you, because it's like how are you going to be that much of a cold person
that's true, like that's very true,
help a kid,
yeah, against better judgment. And like this looks like a super secluded area, so I'm not even sure what kind of cell signal you're gonna get, because I mean it's pretty out there. But he connected this to a tribe of the Celtic Cornovi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. They were also known as the People of the Horn from 50 AD, that carried out satanic rituals and human sacrifices in this area. And even though it was so long ago, they still say it's common to see groups of hooded individuals chanting and drawing pentagrams. According to Brickley, their doctrine had a rule to not harm little children. However, in the article, they said they would conjure demons, and one of their favorite preferences, if you have a preference for demon conjuring, were child demons. Which black-eyed children sound very much like some sort of demonic entity with the black eyes and everything. So it sounds like this was going on over there. But the interesting thing to me was like hardly any of the stuff from England came out until after it had already kind of gotten famous over here from the Abilene, Texas article.
Sure.
It's like if this has really been going on since 50 AD, there should be something more before that timeline. But he did discover 9 different reports in 2 years from like what he considered credible witnesses. There were a lot more reports than that, but he tried to rule out people that had a history of making up stories or ones that just didn't add up. If he could prove, like, some of these people were saying they were there and it was obvious that they actually never visited the area. So he did, it seemed like, try to weed this out. But I actually got the book off of Hoopla, which is like, if you have a library card, you can read free books. And it was interesting because it's not like a traditional, like a fiction book. It's just these people's stories. So.
Interesting. Like people's stories about their experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was kind of cool. But the main difference, I think, between the sightings around the world and specifically those in Cannock Chase, those are consistently in the daytime. I don't think there was a single one that happened at night with the children in those woods. So one of my favorite stories that came out a little bit later was from a couple in 2015 in Vermont. And this is one of the rare stories where the people actually answer the door and told the story after, whereas most people have reported not because they're smarter than this couple. Shouldn't say that, that's mean. So it's around 2 a.m. They hear a knock on the door. The wife goes up because it's been snowing and it's Vermont, and apparently they live on this super windy road, so she's instantly concerned that like maybe somebody wrecked and they need help or a car broke down or something like that. So she gets to the door and there's 2 children, a boy and a girl around maybe 8, but obviously not dressed for winter.
Sure.
So the kids are asking to use the phone to call their parents. So they say, "May we come in?" Instantly, and we should always listen to our animals, like one of her cats freaks out and like runs under the dining room table and is like growling and just acting very like this cat normally does. But the lady's like, "This is kids, they have no coats, like come on in." So she leaves them. I guess there's like a hallway walking in where there's like a phone, and then she's gonna go make them some hot chocolate because it's freezing outside. So then they ask her, can they use the restroom? That's when she noticed their eyes. So she directs them to the bathroom and then immediately goes in to see what her husband is doing in the living room and like ask if he saw their eyes. So at this point, he was like looking down. He brings his head up and he moves his hand away from his face and he has a bloody nose. And he's like trying to get this nosebleed under control. At the same time, the power goes out.
No, don't like that.
So the wife's like, go see what these kids are doing because they're supposed to be in the bathroom. When she walks back out into the hall, they're standing there. They announce, "Our parents are here." And then they walk out the front door, leaving it open. When she sees 2 men at the end of the driveway. Now, this has been another thing that has been in several people's accountings of the black-eyed children, is that typically they're men in like suits with like fedoras, like old-timey clothes, and they're driving an old-fashioned car.
Weird.
And I don't know if any of you guys watched the show Fringe.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Very much reminds me of The Observers
Okay.
in Fringe, like how they look. But so these 2 men are at the end of the driveway. The wife's trying to like wave at them. They completely ignore her, and then they drive away. The power comes back on. So we're like, okay, that was weird. But then it gets really sad. And apparently this part of it, I couldn't find like I'm not going to go look for this couple's medical records, but it has been verified that throughout the next like few weeks, cats go missing. One of them dies. And then the husband keeps getting nosebleeds and is diagnosed with an aggressive skin cancer.
One of the cats dies.
Yeah, one of the cats they found dead. The other 3 just disappeared. So we're assuming they
also dead, maybe.
Yeah.
But the skin cancer he got is basically only in people who regularly use tanning beds, and this man's like never done that in his entire life.
It's so weird.
Yeah, and eventually the wife also gets sick. And apparently they're still dealing with ailments that don't fit anything like what they shouldn't have illnesses they have.
So these children carry some sort of UV rays,
like or radiation. Yeah. So I thought that this story was a little spookier because it is one that they did let them in. This one has been repurposed for several media uses in like short film and creepypastas and all that kind of stuff. Just because I think it is scarier that they came inside. But also like the after effects were really spooky. And then the only proof, well, it's not proof, but the only video I found of these children was an Instagram, and the user's name is Beastly Pumpkin. And there's like a guy in his motorcycle, and this like little girl in like a nightgown is in the middle of the road, and then all of a sudden she's gone. And it could be photoshopped, it could be a ghost, but it very much like fits some of the stories where people were saying like they ran into them in an alley and then just disappeared. But definitely creepy. But other than that, there really aren't any like found footage or photos of these black-eyed children.
The whole thing just freaks me out.
So what do you guys think? Are they real? Are they aliens, demons, vampires, secret government experiment?
Secret government. I feel like aliens seems possible.
It's a smart way to infiltrate because you can like just like body snatch a kid and then just be like, hey. Like,
yeah, or I mean, or they, yeah, because if you observed the human, like the natural human behavior, you would notice that like children are the ones that people take care of and trust.
Right.
And so you would be like, okay, well, if I'm going to be anything, then that would be the thing to be, because like people would trust me and they wouldn't think that I was doing anything wrong and that I was just needing help as a poor, weak child.
I wouldn't.
So.
I don't trust kids. I wouldn't. I mean, I've worked with some gnarly, crazy kids before in a treatment center setting, and I know that kids can be evil. I mean, I would definitely, depending on the situation, look at the context, but I mean, I do kind of wonder about the eyes in terms of like a health condition or even having your pupils heavily dilated, you know? I don't know. It's interesting though, because it's a story that originated in Texas and I have never heard of this. Granted, like I'm from Dallas, not Abilene, but still, I feel like it would have been like more prevalent. Maybe it's more prevalent in like the outskirts or
the rural areas.
Yeah, like more rural.
Yeah. But
yeah, I'm geographically dumb. How far is Abilene from you?
Well, I'm in Austin right now, so let me see. From Austin to Abilene, it's, let's see. Oh yeah, I mean, it's like northwest, so about 3.5 hours, and it's about that from Dallas too. It's kind of equidistant, but just in a different direction, but it's definitely more out west towards like Midland and Odessa.
Man, and this guy's a journalist. How cool would that be if you worked together?
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey, tell me about the black-eyed kids. And
yeah.
You'd be like, no.
Yes, seriously. That's one thing that I just like would not go hunting for though. Like, let's go find some creepy children. That sounds like
yeah, that's gonna be a no for me for sure.
It's gonna be a no for me, dog.
Yeah.
I like the alien theory too, because they definitely don't seem to have full human English vocabularies. Like they say the same phrases and it's like they're mimicking behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So very polite. Well, there was something that traced this back a little bit. There was a book called Your Haunted Lives, The Black-Eyed Kids. And according to this, there was a legend that the children might be something called Otkan from ancient Iroquois, and they believed in a dark power that could take over children, and an evil one who would mate with human females to produce black-eyed chalky-skinned children. And then these children were killed soon after birth and burned to stop them from resurrecting. The children wandering alone in the woods would also be taken over by Otkan and would reemerge with black eyes and pale skin and act nervous, repeating themselves over and over. So I thought this was super interesting too, that like that's the oldest legend that matches like the behavior and the stories that came out.
That's interesting. I've never heard of those.
So Snopes officially lists this phenomenon as a legend. And I think the moral of this episode is fuck them kids.
Yeah, that's it.
So lots of pop culture with this one. Some of them are like right, like on the nose. Some are a little more like I took some liberties with. But one that kept coming up that I really like from the X-Files is the black oil episodes, where they have like the black oil coming out of their eyes, and it was a virus that like would take control of their bodies. So like if it was like the alien theory where they're being controlled and that's why their eyes are black, that kind of like fit with that. There's a documentary film in 2015, The Black-Eyed Children Let Me In. That one I have not seen, and I don't know if you guys are a fan of Hulu's Into the Dark series.
Oh, I still haven't seen that.
I haven't watched it either.
Yeah, I have. I've watched
so
good number of them.
It gave us Puka, which everybody should go watch.
Yes, Puka's great. Puka
but they
is questionable.
Yes, this one is called They Come Knocking, and I like it because I liked one of the main actors in it, but it's not like the best thing ever made. So, but definitely recommend checking that series out.
Yeah, I think it's very hit and miss, but like I think even on the misses, I think there's interesting things happening, and it's like, hey, these are new horror, like people that are new to horror. So Culture Shock was directed by a woman named Gigi Saul Guerrera. And like, I mean, I think she's a female director in horror, which is awesome. We always root for that. And that one's another really good one, in the Into the Dark. I think that's one of the better ones for sure. But I think it's cool that like these younger directors are getting an opportunity to put their work out there and like getting somewhat of a budget. So I mean, obviously they're not getting all the money, but I think that they're doing a lot with the money they have, and I think that's really cool. So I'm all for it.
Well, and I don't know if it's the most high profile thing, but I am all like, I love anytime there's like a mainstream horror anything that gets people maybe watching the genre that don't normally.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite forms of media from this is actually available to watch on Alter, which is like a place you can go online and watch like feature movies, series, short films, but mostly horror-centered indie stuff. And it's called The Black-Eyed Child, and it was written and directed by Tony Morales. That one was really, really good. And then there was another one that hit the film circuit, or like the festival circuit a few years ago, but I couldn't find a current streaming place for it. But it's called Don't Let Them In by David Lawrence, and I'm really hoping that it comes out because it kind of mimics the Vermont story where there's like an author and his wife, and they open the door and everything, you know.
I watched that short. It was pretty good. I mean, like, it was a very simple concept, but it was just like, a woman and the author, and they open the door, and the kids come in, and then like crazy things start happening, the wacky stuff.
All hell breaks loose.
Yeah. So I mean, it was pretty good though. I mean, I always love a horror short, so I pretty much give them a lot of breaks. But
me too.
Like, the acting was questionable, but like, you know, that's okay in a horror short. I'm okay with it. But yeah, he was writing, like, he experiences it and then he writes a book based on it. Or no, he was already writing the book. And then
and ignoring his wife, and
yeah. It was good.
Yeah, I liked how they played out. Like for a short, you got like how bad of shape the marriage was in, like pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then so you're focusing on that, and then the other stuff starts happening. So they did a lot with their time. But one of the other things that I liked is a series on YouTube called Snarled, and they did a really good breakdown of the Black-Eyed Children. So if people are interested in that, that's really good. And then literature, there's so much, and most of it is free if you have like Amazon Unlimited or Hoopla, because they're really bad. But my favorite is The Black-Eyed Children of Cannock Chase by Lee Brickley, which is the one where he just like chronicles the stories from over in England. But then now I'm hooked on this guy because I just downloaded another one of his books that is called UFOs, Werewolves, and the Pigman.
Interesting.
You guys, I'm so excited. But
that sounds like a lot of things.
Yes. But his Black-Eyed Kids book was good. So if you dig stories about this, that's what that is. And then my absolute favorite thing about this is by Aftershock Comics. And even if you're not a comic person, like you're not into capes and tights, check this out. It's so good. Right now, I believe they're up to 3 volumes. And I'm not sure if they're ongoing because I'm behind. But the art is great. The story's good. And it's creepy. Like, you know, for comics, like you're sometimes reading, I think, is scarier because it's all in your head.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
So it's just called Aftershock Comics?
Well, Aftershock is the publisher. It's the Black-Eyed Kids is the name of the book.
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't heard of that one, so I might look it up.
Yeah, and honestly, like
there's so many good horror comics, I feel like, coming out. And that's awesome. I think that's a cool part of the comics community. Because, I mean, yeah, I think people, like, definitely what you were saying, Andrea, people are like, oh, I don't like superhero stuff. But it's like, comics are so much more
There's
than
so
that.
many more, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And Aftershock is pumping out, like, amazing things. So much good stuff there. But this one especially is, like, how I kind of got introed into, like, learning about them. And I'm happy to see them growing.
Oh, I think I have seen this before. It's like, it looks like it's called BEK because the letters are giant BEK.
Yeah.
I've totally seen this at the shop before.
Yeah, it'd be great. Like, they're like a horror Black-Eyed Peas, but it's little kids.
I can only think of the songs that possibly come out of.
It looks like it might only be a 3-volume series total because it stopped in March of 2018.
Wait, I see on their website, is it like 3 books?
Yeah,
I have 3 volumes.
Trade.
Yeah.
So.
I started buying the single trades, and I was like, yeah, this is too much. So I just waited till like the full volumes come out and get them.
Yeah.
Interesting. It looks cool.
Yes. And then I went down a rabbit hole on YouTube and found a Swedish heavy metal band called Astral Doors, and they have a song called Black-Eyed Children. Amazing. And then I spent an hour dancing around my living room to Swedish metal.
Are they good?
And it's not bad at all. It was very interesting.
Was there any evidence that they had those kinds of encounters in Sweden? Do you know?
I didn't find anything from Sweden. Most of it was the U.S. and then over in Cannock Chase in the U.K. But I didn't really see anything else from like around the world.
The legend travels far.
Yeah, but they have like this particular band has like made songs about like George W. Bush and like the U.S. clergy sex abuse scandal.
God.
What a fun thing to sing about.
Yeah.
They're like hip to U.S. happenings.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, I think that we know what Marissa would do if a kid showed up to her door and asked for help.
Very reluctant. I would ask a lot of questions.
I think I'd be the one that gets suckered into this, man. I don't know. I can't turn away a kid.
Well, and my dog would probably... My dog is so...
Oh, yeah, that's true. My dog would definitely bark at me.
Yeah. Like, that's another thing too, is that if someone comes knocking at my door that's not expected, then I don't know you, like, that's not gonna happen. So
yeah, I'm the same way, Marissa. I just like not into opening my door to strangers.
mm-hmm.
If I think if I saw a kid, I don't know, it depends on the situation and the time of day.
I don't think I would invite them in, is the thing.
I think I'd call like I'd talk to them through the door and then call like authorities or something.
I might walk outside and sit with them and try to call the police or something, but like because I think that's weird to be like, kid, come into my house anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
No. See, I have one of those fancy doorbells, so I don't answer my door. I'm just going to be like, hey, what do you want? I can see you on my camera.
I need to get one of those. I told you guys my fear. I'm afraid I'm going to see something on there I don't want to see.
But at least it's outside.
Yeah, but what if it's something horrifying?
Oh my, what if you see it on your phone, like while you're looking out your camera, and then you turn and it's in your bedroom?
That's what I'm saying.
You don't want to live the horror movie? You're like,
yeah, I don't want to wake up to a notification at 3 a.m. to some dude licking my doorbell or something, you know?
God.
Well, but that's kind of like, yeah,
no, that's
not
kind
supernatural. That's just creepy.
Yeah, I don't want any kind of creepy. I don't want supernatural.
I think that's the more likely situation. I saw like somebody posted online this woman that literally was at their Ring doorbell and she was just ringing she was clearly like intoxicated or something was going on, and she was like yelling at them because she thought they were playing music, but it was like somebody else playing music, not them. Anyways, she like literally stood at their door for 45 minutes ringing their doorbell and screaming at them.
Why didn't they call the police?
They did call the police.
Okay.
How could you focus for 45 minutes being drunk like that? I'd like be like, ooh, shiny, I'm gonna go over there.
There's a lot of different types of drunks, Andrea.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Andrea, you don't seem like a mean drunk, so I feel like you're probably safe.
We're gonna leave that at that. So any final thoughts on Black-Eyed Children?
I just am so curious. Maybe they're vampires? I don't know. I like the vampire alien theory.
Because they do need an invitation.
Yeah, like not necessarily an alien vampire, but like either an alien or a vampire.
I like the vampire, like, because, you know, there's like the argument because of the romance novels, like, can vampires like
have babies?
Do the nasty and yeah.
Well, according to Twilight, I'm just kidding.
So these are Twilight babies.
Oh my God, Bella and Edward, what have you done?
Yeah.
No,
I shouldn't badmouth Twilight. I have not seen nor read it, so
this is a very random off-topic story, but I had a work meeting today, and we were like supposed to go around and say like something we did that was intellectual. I don't know. It was a whole thing. We were meeting new people. It's fine. And like this lady was like, well, I haven't read any like really good books lately, but I read this, like, I'm just gonna be honest, I read a vampire book, and I was like, oh, what's it called? She's like, I'm not gonna tell you. And I was like, get it, girl.
I'm not gonna tell you. Honestly, that's hilarious.
Gotta love a trashy vampire novel.
I mean, yeah, I'm here for it.
I accidentally bought a Stephanie Meyer book at the airport one time called The Host.
Oh yeah, I've read that book. It's okay.
I read what I read on the plane and I sat it down and I never picked it back up. So
I think I read that too, but I can't remember.
I mean, I read all the Twilight books, so whatever.
I mean, I did too. Why do you think I know Bella and Edward? I read them all. Whatever.
Yeah.
What's the thing?
It was a part of my life, and we're over that now. And that's
okay. We've moved past it.
I also purchased, here you go, I'm going to tell you my embarrassing story. This is like, we're getting off topic of Black-Eyed Children, but that's okay. I also purchased a Cullen wristband, like the leather wristband that they had, the giant metal freaking, it was hideous.
No.
And I wore it to high school like every day.
Aww. I don't even know what you're talking about, but I can just see it.
I will send you a picture of it. It's a large black leather cuff with like a metal, their little like symbol on it. It's like ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
It's just like Twilight swag, right? Twilight.
Yeah.
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 I'm just sitting here not being judgy. at all.
I never
Hey,
took.
Andrea's over here like, I'd be a cannibal, and then I'm getting judged for having a Twilight. So.
Okay, but I have a good reason for this. Like, Twilight people ruined Comic-Con, so.
Oh.
It's
I
a
mean,
thing.
to be fair, I don't really consider myself that much of a Twilight person. Like, I know that makes me sound like I was, but like, I was not like freaking. I never went to like a midnight release. I never like
I didn't
any of
either.
that. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just really liked the bracelet, if I'm being honest with you. I had questionable style, let's just be honest.
I did too, so.
Who didn't in high school? Let's be real.
Okay,
And
so
I was like trying to be kind of like
hard a
cool.
slur.
No, I don't think anybody
Okay.
cares about it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, like literally when they went to San Diego Comic-Con, like the crowd wasn't like, you know, because we nerds are like passionate anyway. But like somebody got stabbed over a seat with a pen, like in Hall H. It was a mess. And
Yeah,
we were like,
Sorry, what?
Intense.
like you should Google it, and like Twilight, like they ruined Comic-Con.
That's ridiculous.
I think I found your wrist cuff, Liz. You can sell it. You can sell it on Amazon for $99 if you still have it.
Wow.
Oh shit! I don't have it anymore. Oh.
Never throw anything away.
I know, right?
Fandom related, anyway. So speaking of fandoms, what are you guys digging this week?
Okay, so I have to put a little plug in here for something that everyone probably already knows about, but I don't care. And that is Resident Evil 8. It was a delight, and I had such a good time playing it.
I want to play it. I haven't bought it yet.
I'm glad
And-
because I haven't played anything since the original. Do I need to like at least
would
watch
say-
some videos to catch up?
I would say watch a playthrough of 7.
Okay.
Because I think that, I mean, if you want to know the whole story, if you don't care, I will say that I don't think you won't understand 8. It's just that you won't care about the characters as much because like they have a lot more character building in 7, like because basically like it starts with you play as Ethan again, who you play as in Resident Evil 7, and Mia, which is Ethan's wife, in the first game. Like they're together at the beginning of this game, and like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, and like everything, the trauma they went through during 7 is talked about a lot in 8. And so, I don't know. I think it's like definitely connected. You don't have, but it's very loosely connected to the rest of the games. Like they definitely bring in like the Umbrella Corporation and stuff. Like you see some of that stuff, but it's not like I don't know that much about Resident Evil, and I played 7 before 8 came out so that I could play 8 and understand the story.
I like more story-driven games. Those are the types of games I play.
Yeah,
so,
I would say that's what this is. Like, I mean, 8 definitely had a lot more action than 7 did, even. Because I think they tried to pick up like a little bit more like shooting and stuff. But I think if you play on easy mode, which is what I do, because I'm not that, I like a story of my video game. I don't care about being really great at shooting things. So
Yeah,
I'm terrible at it.
I know, I'm terrible too. Blair always like yelling at me like, what are you doing? So, but yeah, it was super fun, and like all the characters are really fun because there's like basically like 4 different like areas in the game. And like I'm already like, hey Blair, is this our Halloween costume?
Yes.
I'm gonna get some stilts. I'm gonna get some stilts and be tall vampire
dude.
lady.
Let's do. I'm here for that.
Oh, like the booby lady?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, I already got the boobs, so
Yeah.
Booby lady.
I love it.
That. I, going back to the comic thing, have always been a huge fan of the comic Sweet Tooth.
Yeah.
And I just started the show. I'm only 2 episodes in, but I am loving it so far. Obviously, I don't know what direction it's going to go yet, but I am just like, that and Why the Last Man are 2 of my all-time favorite comic books, and Why the Last Man is supposed to come out in September or August, I think. And I am just so hyped to get adaptations that seem to be well done of comics I love.
Oh my gosh, Kaylee, I'm freaking out because I am on episode 4.
Oh my god.
And I've never read it, but DC just put out an omnibus, I believe, yesterday.
Yeah.
Huge, yeah.
It's like 900 pages, but like
Yeah,
out of these 4 episodes, I'm like, I have to buy this and read it now.
Dude, I love that story so much.
Yeah,
And
Sweet Tooth's so fun.
Yeah.
I'm very emotionally invested.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the show yet, but I also love the comics and I'm excited to watch it. So
yeah, I'm so
Jeff
far
Lemire,
so good.
My favorite thing is like Jeff Lemire, I'm pretty sure, posted on Instagram, and he like posted like an email that said like nobody is ever gonna make a show about a dear child or something. Like it was like an email from someone that like was turning down his idea. And I was like, and then he's like, and look where we are now, number one on Netflix. Like,
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And completely in character for anyone that's ever been to my house. I want a Funko Pop line from this. Like, I need
I'm
Funko
sure.
Pops of this
I
show.
feel like probably that would happen.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I started reading this book called The Burning Girls. It's by C.J. Tudor, Tudor, and it's about a priest who moves to a small town that's apparently haunted by these girls who were burned at the stake. And I'm not super far into it, but I mean, it's just like a quick little horror read. I mean, it's pretty smooth. It's a page turner, but it's nothing like, I don't know if I were in Liz's meeting, I don't know if I would mention it as like necessarily intellectual, but it's like a fun, just like a fun story and a spooky little horror novel. And I had never heard of that author before, so it was one of those situations where I basically liked the cover. I judged it by its cover, and because it had like a church that was just on fire, and then I read the back and I was like, fuck it, yeah, I'll read it. So it's pretty good though.
Nice.
Sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it does sound interesting.
Okay, so mine is something I accidentally stumbled upon, and I believe it's only streaming on Arrow if you have a subscription. They're doing a lot of free trials right now, and I like, for anybody that likes genre film, not just horror, they have a ton of good stuff. So definitely check out Arrow. But it's called Crystal Eyes, and it was actually made in 2017. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought this was made in like 1980. It's super old school, very, very much a vibe. Not everybody's gonna like this movie, but I just absolutely loved it, and I want everybody to watch it.
Awesome.
Nice. Crystal Eyes.
Yes,
Crystal
or
Eyes.
it's
I thought you were gonna
Mirada
be
de
like,
Cristal.
I watched this movie. It's called The Stylist. It's like pretty good. It's on Arrow.
And it's on Arrow. That's why
And
I'm
the
on
Blu-ray
Arrow.
just came out.
My Blu-ray is still in the UK, and it's in customs right now.
Oh. Why is it in customs?
Because I ordered it off the Arrow website, and I'm stupid, and I bought it from the UK instead of over here.
I was like,
Is it gonna be the right format?
Yeah, I emailed them because I was like, hey, I don't have a region-free Blu-ray player, and they're like, no, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. I have the message saved just in case.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, I got mine, no problem. What is
I know.
Why is yours in customs?
I wasn't paying attention. I should have saw, like, when I was checking out, it was pounds. That should have been like a, hey, there's something here. But all right, so if you like what you've heard, please join us next time. Interact with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Black Magic Coven. Be sure to use the hashtag Black Magic Coven, and rate, review, and subscribe on Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. This concludes the gathering of the Black Magic Coven.
You're listening to a Downright Creepy original on the Crickets Podcast Network.